Oh boy, I've been waiting for this one. It's time to rank those Season 17 episodes. This is an exercise I've literally never thought about before, so I was genuinely curious where these would all land. I took all 22 episodes, eliminated 10 right off the bat to get our 12 semifinalists, then quickly selected 9 and pondered the number 10 spot for like 2 days until settling on the finalists. Here are my top 10 episodes of Season 17. Three Halloween segments, ready, set, go. This is one of the rare treehouses that opens with the weakest segment, in my opinion, with Artificial Intelligence being such an on-the-nose parody of a not Halloween movie. Seriously, make with the spooky. To its credit, the family dynamic between Bart, David, and his parents do provide some laughs. The idea of Homer dumping Bart in the woods is a nice subversion. I used to totally hate this segment, but I've warmed up to it a little over the years. The second two I'm going to group together because they're essentially list segments. You know, where they give us a concept and unfurl a list of characters they'll bounce around to. First, Mr. Burns hunting and murdering people in increasingly entertaining ways. Love this Mo joke and Lenny and Carl's deaths. We could have probably done without the Terry Bradshaw though. The final segment is even more listy, where nothing really happens and we're just here to enjoy the transformations. Love seeing Mayor McCheese, Homer trying to drink beer, Lisa's Einstein accent. Also everyone, including the witch, mistaking Nelson's Lone Ranger costume for a raccoon. Best joke of the episode. The pacifier ending is kinda stupid, but hey, we got a Bewitched parody. All in all, Treehouse of Horror 16 is an extremely middle-of-the-road Halloween special by Simpsons standards. There's no segment that is especially terrible, but nothing top 20 worthy. But due to its creativeness and clever designs, it deserves a spot on the Season 17 list. My first instinct is that the monkey suit is hitting too many of my pet peeves about teens-era Simpsons, with Ned Flanders going on a giant crusade, opening the door for Lisa to effortlessly dunk on how stupid everyone is. We've seen this story archetype so many times, it's pretty tedious. But I gotta give them their flowers, it executes this format well. The museum set piece contains several memorable jokes and introduces some Homer-Ned conflict. The Scopes monkey trial stuff is super on the nose, like they're waving their hands pointing out what this is referencing. There's very little Simpsons spin to the satire, no quirky subversion that makes it unique. But this evolution creationism issue is worth discussing, and it's cool seeing it ravage the hallways of Springfield Elementary. Also, hey, it's Little Mo Sizlek, my favorite. In a season that struggles in the resolution department, the monkey suit absolutely nails its ending. Seeing Homer swing his fists around like a giant ape is both hilarious and clever, paying off their earlier run-in. Lisa and Marge's relationship, although never hitting the complexity of Lisa the Skeptic, does add an extra wrinkle. Also, it has that weird Mission Impossible joke with Nelson. What better ending could you ask for? See Homer Run proves that putting a character in a funny costume can sometimes carry the day. No, really. That's what I love about it. Homer is so damn funny, running around as the safety salamander, doing a school assembly, saving people's lives, and standing on that debate stage. Wait a minute, how is Homer controlling his tail? In addition, we get a funny resolution with Marge shrinking his costume. Hey, 2 good endings in a row. It even starts out strong with the Daddy and Me book. I can tell my paternal instincts are kicking in because this is absolutely adorable and melts my heart. Homer, you're such a jackass. I like how they bring the school into it, that Lisa's bad relationship with her dad affects her attitude. Getting Homer into the suit is somewhat clunky, but I get it. See Homer Run does feel like 2 different episodes smashed together. The Homer-Lisa salamander stuff and the Homer runs for mayor angle. I don't really understand how this mayor stuff informs the Homer-Lisa relationship. It's cute that they tie everything together, but I thought we completed this storyline in Act 2. The construction of Lisa's character arc leaves something to be desired. But still, the safety salamander rules, and you gotta have him on the list. He gets my vote. The Girl Who Slept Too Little is the very definition of a solid Simpsons episode. It doesn't do anything especially amazing, and it never pisses off the audience. This is a very competently told story about Lisa facing her fears, coupled with some nice atmosphere. It does have an unconventional plot structure, how they open with a conflict over a stamp museum before transitioning to the creepy cemetery storyline. But then they do actually go visit the stamp museum? They do that whole set piece in Act 2 and introduce the Where the Wild Things Are parody. Lisa's nighttime fears are conveyed well, featuring some cute character dynamics with Homer and Marge. Love this joke about Bart's race car bed. Take that, Kirk. Also, what is up with this weird Graveskeeper Billy thing? I like how Groundskeeper Willie basically gets murdered, and it doesn't matter at all. Willie murder aside, it sometimes feels like very little happens in this story. That they're just killing time until the cemetery visit in Act 3. The cemetery stuff works well, and builds to a beautifully animated dream sequence. But I always find myself wanting more. These guys are awesome, let's give them more to do. Maybe, from listening to that Testify album, I secretly wish they didn't delete their song. This episode drives me crazy, because this thing could have easily been number 1, an all-time modern classic. Just look at some of the stuff in it. It's got the Itchy and Scratchy musical, a pitch-perfect Lion King homage with hilariously twisted imagery. It's got the 27 joke. And most importantly, it's got a compelling Lisa conflict, with her entering the world of boyhood. I think it's a better spin on the military school episode, featuring a more believable Lisa goal and isolating her in the familiar confines of Springfield Elementary. Her being beaten up means so much more because it was at the hands of Nelson. I think it's kind of brave that they went here and threw Lisa into the deep end. Why is the world of boys so stupidly aggro, you know? I say this as a guy. What is up with my gender? Why did I need to learn how to throw a punch? Seeing this over-the-top take on this world is pretty interesting, when viewed through Lisa's perspective. On the other hand, the overarching commentary about gender and math is extremely sloppy. Skinner just busts in there and is like, by the way, I'm sexist, and then they don't even examine the issue in any detail. There's some funny material with Skinner not knowing what to say, as well as the touchy-feely math, but the female half of the story is so underserved, there's no substance to it. The writers don't have an answer, and neither does Lisa. Basically, I like this episode as a gender-bending Lisa adventure, and that's it. Ignore the framing, don't expect any real answers, and you'll probably have a good time. Whoa, upset special. The seemingly never-ending story is the consensus best season 17 episode. I mean, it won an Emmy. What is it doing down here? I do respect this episode and enjoy what a format bender it is. It is definitely the best plotted episode of the year. Not only dreaming up a multi-layered narrative that can be told through multiple POVs, but also finding a way to tie everything together in one final showdown. I love Mr. Burns' story in particular. This silly rich people's wager with Burns taking deranged photos on the bus. Him getting bossed around at Moe's is very cathartic. Boy, will Mr. Burns look stupid later. However, I've always found most of the other stories fairly boring and have trouble connecting to them. Moe and Edna is such a random pairing, it feels more fanficky than a true origin story. The Lisa Sheep thing is funny and injects some action into the story, I suppose, but doesn't make all that much sense. Even how we get to the showdown is kinda dumb. I don't know, I'm probably being too nitpicky on this one. It has an awesome format and some memorable jokes, but the individual pieces are a little dull and don't fit together that interestingly. It's an episode that I enjoy on a purely intellectual level. Oh boy, I think many folks might hate this pick. This is especially weird coming from me, as I usually hate Simpsons travel episodes. At first glance, Kiss Kiss Bang Bangalore does fall into many of those Simpson travel traps. You can just picture the writers brainstorming, what the hell do we know about India? cows, arranged marriages, polytheism, the lady and the tiger. But I think it's clever in how it frames so much of it through Homer and Burns' misconceptions about the country. That Burns is so stupid that he needs to do this snake charmer dance, that he needs to float down the Ganges. He's so dumb. I love the ending twist, that Homer ruins his outsourcing plans by giving the employees amazing benefits and them unionizing. That's why Homer considers himself godlike, and the people are following him, because he's bungling his way into an amazing workplace. When they're suddenly doing an Apocalypse Now parody, you're expecting the worst, but the episode is weaponing those worst fears against the audience. The MacGyver story with Patty and Selma is frickin' hilarious all the way through, one of the most deranged subplots they have ever done. I love Richard Dean Anderson's reading of Now so much, this pathetic manchild who demands to be tied up. This B-plot is so demented. Overall, this is one of the biggest fever dream episodes in Simpsons history. Every joke is cuckoo bananas, it goes in an unbelievable direction, and it finishes with an entertaining Bollywood number. God, I'm such a sucker for Marge and Bart episodes. I am totally overrating Marge's son poisoning, but I don't care. Its most common point of contention is with Bart's characterization, that he is arguably too conscientious and deferential. They do a great job showing how Bart feels bad for her, and even getting him in that tea house with all those sweets. But then, when he's letting her remake his treehouse, it's like, okay, not exactly America's bad boy anymore. However, I enjoy seeing this side of their relationship, how there remains some awkwardness, with the two trying to bridge the personality gap. And with such an easygoing Bart, it makes his lashing out at Marge all the more painful. Of course Bart is going to feel that peer pressure. Of course he's going to betray her and feel bad afterward. Once again, maybe they push him too far, but I do appreciate how they use Skinner and Agnes as a point of comparison. Marge comes around and accepts Bart for who he is. Homer's B-plot is totally disposable, but works well as a palate cleanser. Let's work on those muscles. Let's hustle rich Texan. Let's take a walk on the beach. Wait, a walk on the beach? This B-plot is just silly fun and is not meant to be taken seriously, and even Homer doesn't care about it. It perfectly balances a sensitive, character-driven main storyline with some wacky, mindless nonsense. Yay, a musical episode! You all know I'm a sucker for some Simpsons singing, and this is no exception. Doing a parody of My Fair Lady with Willie is such an inspired idea. Willie has always been a down-on-his-luck slob, and it's perfectly in character for Lisa to try to help him out. Bart gets to play the contrarian, betting Lisa that she can't do it. Yeah, it's walking us through many basic plot beats of the source material with its corresponding songs, but they all work so well. Look at Willie showing off his new persona at the inexplicably fancy science fair. I totally believe him when he wistfully sings about how he misses his old life. The What Flows From Your Nose song is so charming and ridiculous, and I will always hate Homer for ending the number early. Oh yeah, the Blue Pants B-plot is in this episode, and it's fine. It's got this joke and some body ad stuff, a perfectly cromulent B-plot. Even the bombardment stuff at the beginning is pretty memorable, with Bart freezing that dodgeball like an action star and destroying Willie's house. Bombardment! Not every joke lands or has aged well, and I admit to having some Willie fatigue by the very end, but I am glad to see a Simpsons season finally make way for Willie. Bart Has Two Mommies is an episode in which Bart gets kidnapped by a chimp. It is the best episode of season 17. I told you all that this thing is awesome in that Hidden Gems video. I am doubling down. I like everything about this episode. We got the opening with the rubber duck race and the angry eyebrows, the cartoony sequence of Homer being crushed in that old mill, then some amusing Rod and Todd material with Marge. We're so used to Marge being surrounded by dysfunctional chaos that it's refreshing seeing her deal with the exact opposite. that now she's the one pushing to let loose, introduce them to the exciting world of teeter-totters and indoor fun zones. Homer showing up in that varsity jacket is the cutest thing ever. I love how committed to the bit he is. Don't pressure me! Bart being kidnapped by a chimp is extremely stupid and random, but I don't think that's a bad thing. It works thematically with the motherhood angle, it gives Homer some shtick to do in the background, and even integrates a clever callback with the church steeple. If you're gonna do a blank gets kidnapped by a chimp story, this is like the best possible execution. I'd argue that the Marge Flanders stuff is so aggressively down to earth that this episode needs something this cuckoo bananas in it. Plus, where else are you gonna get a Rod Flanders spotlight? Mrs. Simpson made him gay, and we should all be proud of him. Now, going into this top 10 list, did I expect the Kidnapping Monkey episode to be number 1? Well, yes, to be honest. I love this episode. But for an era of The Simpsons that some claim is forgettable, I love that such an odd duck could be considered best in show. Just missing out on this list are Millhouse of Sand and Fog at number 12, and then We're on the Road to Nowhere as the Bubble episode. This Homer Bart episode is fairly solid, all things considered, and has some funny gags. But for whatever reason, I always forget that this episode exists. It immediately slides out my brain after watching it. There's just nothing about it that jumps out at me, except for maybe Marge selling drugs, and that is memorable for a bad reason. At least it doesn't end in a random danger set piece. So that's where I landed for my top 10. Now it's your turn. Which are your favorite episodes of season 17? Are any of them overrated? Which ones deserve more love? Also, on a scale of 1 to 10, how deranged is that MacGyver B-plot? Up next on the docket, we have the Bart-tastic world of season 18, in which Bart gets a fiancé, a new best friend, and a town full of enemies. Will Bartman get his revenge on them? Only Jack Bauer has the answer. As always, thanks for watching.